This whole plot surprised even me. What up? VSD here coming at you live, and I just saw the sequel to 28 Years Later. We are gonna break it down like this real quick in a hot minute. Fine. But you too. This movie is based on the original story screenwritten by Alex Garland. It told the story about an experimental virus that escaped from a lab into the world when a bunch of animal rights activists tried to rescue chimpanzees infected with said virus known as Rage. After reuniting to release 28 years later during the summer of 2025, or 2025, or however you want to say it, there was no hesitation to bring us part 2. If you want a full in-depth review of the first part, you can check it out on this channel and the link is in the description. This movie did not disappoint. The first movie was shot using mostly iPhone 15 Pro Maxes, which surprised the heck out of me. However, the sequel stayed with the Arri Alexa 35 digital camera, which is one of the standard models used in the film industry. What was even more surprising was that the first movie with this one was shot together in 2024 or 2024, however you want to say it, and then pieced together for double release. Very clever. 2 movies, 1 budget. The movie's second part did not have a lot of cameos from some of the leads from the first part, which is understandable. We mostly followed Spike, played by Alfie Williams once again, and Dr. Ian, played by Ralph Fiennes. Although there are many storylines, these two are the main staples that the movie rests upon. The first thing we see when we see this movie is that Spike is with the Blondes in an arena setting where we learn that Spike is currently forced into a position where he has to participate in like a death match against one of the members of the Blondes to either join the Blondes or die trying. Immediately, I'm like, what? But Spike gets a lucky stab at the dude's leg and he is bleeding to death, and Spike gains the wig from their leader Jimmy and joins the brigade. Quickly, we learn that the Blondes are up to no good as they gang up on a group seeking shelter in a home to eat their food to then eventually torture them on some Hostel Part 2 kind of shit. You had to see both movies in order for you to get what the heck I'm talking about. It's crazy! Meanwhile, Dr. Ian has been drugging an alpha zombie looking like Jason Momoa, butt-ass naked with a big dick with what we later learn to be morphine. Eventually, he was going to run out of morphine, so one night as Dr. Ian was going to peaceably put the alpha to sleep, aka to death. Stop. Via drugs. The alpha spoke English as he looked up into the night sky saying one word. Moon. Stop. On the other side, Spike is outside the barn because he cannot take the torture going on. Screams, blood, and flesh ripping, and one of the females of the Blondes keeps him company. Certainly nice of her, shit. However, panic ensues after Jimmy lets one of the male captives begin in that same deathmatch initiation bullshit that Spike went through, and he chose this crazy ass blonde bitch who ends up besting it. It's like horror and erotic. You had to see it for yourself. But one of the females of the victims who fled earlier knocks homegirl out from above, where Jimmy orders the chick to be killed, and then the dude who was participating in this initiation grabs literally a canister of whoop ass, shoots it, and sets a bunch of people on fire. And the barn is now burning. And the people outside didn't know. Jimmy and the girl just sees this and was like, holy shit. And Spike got orders to bring back the woman who caused this whole scenario to begin with, and she was just trying to escape. I would. You would, everyone would if you saw this shit. And she was doing this the entire time while pregnant. Spike finds her, get those puppy dogs ready, and says, take me with you. But she gut punches him and flees the scene. Damn. I felt sorry for Spike when that happened. Dude, I was like, damn, that was your only shot, sort of like it. Jimmy, now with like 4 people left, started talking about punching Spike, and then he just started talking about some dude called like Old Nick. However, one of the female Blondes mentioned that she saw Old Nick a while back dancing with the demon and manages to convince Jimmy to investigate, and if true, he will speak to Old Nick regarding Spike. I had no clue what the they were talking about during this part of the movie. I was like, who the heck is old Nick? The blondes with Spike witness Dr. Ian covered in red iodine, and Jimmy confirms that that's old Nick. And I'm like, what? And he's going to speak with him in private later. Are y'all confused? I was confused, but it gets better, and then the unraveling begins to start with this whole shit. Dr. Ian meets with Jimmy at the Bone Temple, i.e. Skull Mountain, where we finally learned that old Nick is Satan, and that the blondes are a band of Satanists. Now it all makes sense. Shut up, I am not that slow. Did y'all know? He didn't. Stop. Upon their conversation, Jimmy learns that all of this was caused by a virus, and Dr. Ian is forced to play the role of Satan for Jimmy's group, otherwise he's going to be killed in a real way. In a real way, in a real way. Jimmy prepares his group for their journey to Old Nick within the week. Meanwhile, Dr. Ian is preparing for a rock concert spectacular, while the Alpha goes on a personal journey to literally find himself. In a real way. Stop. Spike tried to run away, and one of the blonde dudes tried to kill Spike, but is killed instead thanks to the girl blonde Spike made friends with earlier. And now they have to come up with some shit so that Jimmy doesn't kill him in a real way. Jimmy gonna get you. Jimmy gonna get you. I'll stop. Dr. Ian finishes his setup, and the Alpha is sitting on a derailed train car and starts to have flashbacks, and he starts to remember who he was before the infection. And when he comes to, he sees a bunch of zombies surrounding him, where all he says is he has no ticket before the zombie strikes, and the Alpha gets like let loose, start fighting, throwing those hands on some Aquaman kind of shit you had to see. Started throwing those hands. Yo, you should have seen that shit. The Alpha went crazy. It was like he went off. It's like when you get off roids and then you just, I'll stop. Jimmy and his group of 3, including Spike, traveled to see Old Nick, and Dr. Ian is decked out in costume like a cast member of the movie Underworld. Rock and roll, baby! Jimmy's group shows up, and there is heavy metal rock music playing with a bunch of fire and dance routines by Dr. Ian dressed up as his version of Satan. Dr. Ian, while dancing, breathes this powdered substance into everybody's face. Well, almost everybody's face. I don't think he hit Spike, but he didn't even know it was Spike. But anyway, and they are all high as right now. Hallucinating, seeing shit. After the show, Dr. Ian orders the blondes to follow his son Jimmy and to extend his fingers, i.e. grow the number of people in his cult. But when Dr. Ian notices Spike, he makes a new decree to where, as God had his only son killed, that Satan's only son, Jimmy, should be killed as well. At this point, Jimmy is like, "F you mean?" Because he knew it's all bullshit. And then he attacks Dr. Ian, revealing his ruse, and the female blonde, who is Spike's friend, attacks Jimmy and kills the other girl with him. At this point, Jimmy was like, I don't know who the hell you think you are. You ain't getting them to turn off me. You crazy. I know. Anyway, after Dr. Ian and Spike have a heartfelt goodbye, the blonde girl hangs Jimmy upside down. When Jesus walks. Stop. Spike leaves with the girl and learns her name is Kelly. Listen, it's as Dr. Ian told Spike. He did what he did for Spike because he believed that Spike has suffered enough. Damn, that hit. Yo, you had to see part 1. Jimmy is hanging upside down as the Alpha comes to see Dr. Ian to try and tell him thank you, but realizes that he's dead. So as the Alpha carries Dr. Ian's corpse away, Jimmy sees the Alpha as Satan due to either the hallucinogenic drugs that he got earlier during the concert, or because of his natural hysteria. All that blood rushing upside down. But then after seeing him as Satan, he was attacked by a zombie. Oh, but it gets better. Jim. Not Jimmy. Not a Jimmy. Not even little Jimmy or Jimmy Eats World. But our Jim, played by Cillian Murphy, any way you want to call him, he is the GOAT, is teaching his daughter about world history, and they hear noise outside, grab guns, and see that 2 people are fleeing from the infected, where they go and help. The end. Stop. I think the emotional side of the story centers on what Jim said at the end of the movie. That if you don't learn from history, then you're doomed to repeat it. A lack of knowledge can cause many errors, but it takes guts and knowing the truth to make the right decisions. Damn, that's deep. Spike was trapped with a group of Satanists led by a dude who we thought would be the hero because of the first part of the movie, but was just a child who lost his faith in God and humanity and turned to the devil he believed adopted him as his son amongst the demons, aka the zombies, because he believes that God is ignoring them. Which kind of makes sense. I mean, his dad was a priest. Dr. Ian, being an atheist, knew that the outbreak was viral and not supernatural, but found a way to treat it thanks to the Alpha by healing the mind. I mean, after all, he once said, "What do the infected see when they see us?" Damn, that's deep. In essence, this movie is about holding on to something to believe in order to make it through like tragedies that you cannot always control. Playing God has consequences, and our actions affect other people. Stop experimenting on monkeys. Stop it. No bats either. Even though we see the world differently, we need to always remember first that we are all human. Stop experimenting on the stinking fetuses. That's crazy. 5 stars. And here's why. You saw those 5 claps? That was not an accident. Fundamentally, they stayed true to their original tale and it kicked off nicely. Like adding like a little bit of parsley on that, a little bit of salad or whatever. I'll stop. Technically, I did not see a lot of errors that would turn me off in the cinematography. It would have been, cool to see like the iPhone 15 Pro Max's shots and other kinds of zombies, but this wasn't that kind of movie, so I understand. It's not my baby, it's their baby, and it worked. The acting was pretty good, no complaints, and I think Dr. Ian and Spike shined the most in the sequel than in the first movie. And Jimmy, played by Jack O'Connell, did a wonderful job playing a crazed madman cult leader on some Charles Manson type of shit. Very good job. You should have seen that movie. Yo, he was like a boss. I'll stop. The action story was fine, although Act 2 for the world of the story starts much later. For their individual storylines, it did not hurt the story to have it crafted as such, so I'll explain like this. Dr. Ian and Spike's low point in their Act 2 was the world of the story's end of Act 1. I say this because the main conflict of the story has to affect everyone in it, and we get that when Jimmy ventures to see Dr. Ian, aka Old Nick. Everyone else is just secondary characters. They're the main centerpiece of the story. And the emotional story was something I could get behind. No complaints. But will there be another sequel? There just could be. But if there isn't, the story ends well if this is the end. Please, no cheap spin-offs. We're ending on a high note and we're at the peak. Although some movies should have better sequels, this video right here is a prime example of what not to do. We got merch, y'all.